Hey you and welcome to my channel. My name is Tina and my aim is to improve your drawings just like others have done for me when I just started out. In today's video, I want to take you through my journey of drawing this Maltese doggy with soft pastels. For the background and the underlayer, I'm using PanPastels as I have done with all of my latest tutorials. These panpastels just give me so many colors with just a few pans, because you can mix them so easily. That's why they are perfect for the underlayer of a white dog, as you can mix in subtle tone variations to make it look more realistic. This also makes it easier and quicker to go on top of with the pencils. This way I only have to add in the finest details with the pencils. Anyway, let's get started. By now you've seen me work on the background, which is to be a blurry background with some bokeh effect for extra cuteness. Only using a couple colors for this one and mixing them together to get a lot of variations. The blue represents the sky that's visible through the trees in the background. The bokeh is added on top of everything with a light grey mixed with some green or blue. These bokeh balls give the impression of light shining through the trees in the back and give it more of a magical feeling, in my opinion at least. Now on to the Maltese dog itself. I'm using 4 or 5 different pans to mix my colors from, although I use the grey that you see on the side straight out of the pan a lot. It just happens to be the perfect color for my underlayer. I'm not using pure white for my underlayer as I don't get much room for highlights if I would do so, or no room at all to be exact. Instead, I'm using a lot of greys and blue shades to get in the shadows and the darker fur underneath. This makes it a lot easier for my pencils to stand out on top of the underlayer. At his muzzle, I'm using a little bit of brown, as these dogs tend to get a little brown colored fur around the muzzle because of the white that discolors here, from all of the munching on food and treats of course. For the fur on the body and chest, I'm using a lot of different shades mixed together again to give the impression of fur already. I'm still going to go over this area with pencils, but I want to make it a little less detailed so that it gives the impression that the head is closer to the camera, which it is, and therefore the body is more out of focus. By making these clumps of fur already with the PanPastels, this saves me a lot of time when I will go over them with the pencils. When I'm picking up my pencils, I'll start with the eyes, as they draw the attention, and this way I can immediately judge my values better. Nothing really new here, I'm starting with the contour of the eyes and make sure that I don't go over the line art of them. Otherwise they won't look very natural anymore, I'm afraid. His eye color is brown with little highlighted orangey brown tones at the bottom, where the sun reflects. So I make sure to add these in and use some squiggly lines for them so that it looks more realistic. The reflection of the eye is added with dark blue and a little bit of white, but not too much though. I add in a fine line beneath the iris with a light grey. This gives the impression that the sun is reflected on there too. And that's it for the eyes. We will still layer some fur on top of the contours here to make them blend in more with the face, but that's for later on. Let's work our way from left to right with the fur now. I'm going in with a grey to darken up some places on the ear first, and switch to a light grey to get in all of the fur that I want to draw in. Notice how I'm not using white right away. The white is reserved for the highlights on top of all the other fur, so we won't overdo it. The process of layering the fur is pretty much the same all over. Add some darker grey where the shadows need to be darker and switch to the very light grey when you want to draw the fur on top of the underlayer. Because of the underlayer with PanPastels, you won't need to add too much shadows or highlights. That's why we spend a little more time with the PanPastels, so that we wouldn't have to spend too much time with the pencils to correct our highlights and shadows now. When I'm happy with how the fur looks, I'll go over it with a white pencil to get in those bright highlights. I pick out some strands by looking at my reference picture and seeing where the highlights are, then adding a little bright white fur there. Make sure you're not adding too much of these, as they will draw the attention, and getting too much of these in will undo that. This will make them blend in again instead of standing out. If you're new to my channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. Give some love to that like button too while you're down there. And hit the bell if you want to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Now back to this video. When it's time to draw in the nose, I'm first drawing the nostrils, as I don't want to lose track of where they go, as well as that fine line from the bottom of the nose to halfway up. then filling in the rest of the nose a little more light-handed. As you all know, we blend this out so that it becomes a smooth nose. And when adding in these little circles on top of the nose, make sure that you draw your circles in the middle a little bit bigger than the ones on the side. These will lead the eye to the center of the nose instead of the sides. And it just looks prettier in my opinion. We will go over this a few more times to make sure that it's dark enough and has the correct undertone compared to the reference picture. That's why you'll see me glaze over some brown in a bit. On the reference picture, the nose has a warm brown tone to it. So make sure to keep looking at your reference picture, not only for the highlights and shadows, but for the subtle changes in color, value and tone too. And lastly, we'll add in the little hairs of fur growing just around the nose and the ones that bend over the nose a little. This again makes the nose blend in with the face a little more and makes it much more realistic. For the chin, we'll repeat everything we've done with the fur on the head already. And for the lower part of the body, I'm going over with a very light gray to add some fur markings, but not too much. Not like I've done with the fur on the head, for example, as I want the focus to be on the head instead of the body. Lastly, I'm looking at the piece from a distance and judging my values. This way I can see where I need to darken or lighten things up a little more. This way I'm seeing that I can make my shadows a bit darker to make him stand out even more. This gives more of an indication of the skull underneath all of that fur, and makes it look more realistic in turn. By the eyes, for example, I've darkened it up a little bit, as the eyes lay deeper in the skull. This gives more shadow than the top of the head, for example, which sticks out more. These subtle changes make the piece look way more realistic without a lot of effort. And then I'm ready to call this one finished. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate your support, as this helps to grow my channel and reach other people just like yourself. Hope to see you again next Friday, and in the meantime, have a great week.